How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. Yeah, it's nice to connect. I hope, by the way, that we just run into each other in Woodstock.
I hope so too. Where are you staying?
I'm staying in Saugerties, pretty close by.
Okay.
And I discovered a couple of days ago that I will have a car, so that makes life so much easier to get around.
Yeah, that does.
You know? And I'm bringing my son.
Oh, how old's your son?
Oh, man. Hey, Jacob, how old are you? No, I'm kidding. He's 15.
Oh, okay.
How old are your 3 children?
I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 11-year-old.
That's right there. We're having the same generation of kids. Only you somehow decided that you needed to create some sort of ball team. 3 children.
Yeah, I had 3.
That's that's not that many.
Well, it's not 1. It's not 2. It's 3.
Yeah, and they're all kind of in the same. They're all in the same age range, at least where, in a matter of time, where they can all kind of, relate as peers, and that's pretty cool that they'll have each other.
Yes, if they can get along, it'll be fantastic. But
oh, man. Gender-wise, what's the breakup?
I have the girl. My girl is the oldest, and then I have 2 boys.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like the Peter Pan family.
Oh, right. She's the Wendy.
She's the Wendy.
So who's and
Michael
your dad
John.
and your husband? I'm just making an assumption here that you have a husband.
I do have a husband, and we're still married.
It's a miracle. I support you and him.
Thank
and
you.
He's very lucky, and it sounds like a great. And you're making movies, and it sounds terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I happened to see your new movie.
Oh, good. You did see it.
Of course,
Okay,
I would
good.
not do this if I hadn't seen it. That's my first. People contact me and they say they'd like to do the podcast, and I say, well, I have to see the movie. I have to see it first, and then that's one thing, and then I have to see if I connect to it, and then because I don't want to do it if I'm not going to connect to the film, and then the other thing that happens is a lot of people like yourself might say, oh, did you see the movie? When I'm like. Of course I saw. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, how many people?
Well, I've heard people interview people without seeing
Sure.
the movie or reading the book, or
Right.
that does happen.
Sure. Your new film is called Imaginary Orator. Is that based on a novel?
What novel?
No, I'm just asking.
Oh no,
Okay.
I wrote the screenplay.
Okay. Because you mentioned that. You said something about that.
Oh, I said sometimes I've heard interviews where people have not read the book, of the person they're interviewing or saw the movie,
Yes.
They haven't done their homework before.
That's true.
They interview the person, and that's not uncommon.
Right.
But
Oh, no, it is true. And that's what's surprising when it comes to a film, especially because a film is 80 to 90 minutes typically. Now, a book takes you days to read.
yeah,
And that's a lot if
unless you're one of those people that can read a book in a day,
Right.
or what.
These people that interview authors all the time, you're wondering how do they do it? Well, they can't read all of them. Of course they can't. So they have
They have their assistant or
the
somebody read it and give them notes.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
But I feel like with film, it's far less of a time commitment. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I do think so. But you have to pay attention, so.
For sure. And you have to process it and think about what you're doing, what the filmmaker might be doing, and they come up with some questions or at least facilitate some sort of conversation about that, So now you're a mother of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to guess you spent a bunch of years where that had to take up a lot of your days.
Yeah, it still does.
Mm-hmm.
It takes up a lot of time, but sometimes, when the busier you are, the more you get done. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like if I had less to do, maybe I would produce less.
Oh, I see. There's a momentum, in other words, that builds.
Yeah,
the
I
busy
mean, like
you are.
you're so
I agree with
manic from everything
Yeah.
It just creates more. I prioritize things, in a way where I don't really have that much of a social life as a result of being a filmmaker and a mother of 3, and a husband. So I don't have, I have friends, but I don't get to see them all that often.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And it sounds like you're living far from your family as well.
Right, I do. I don't live in New York anymore, so.
Are your in-laws near you?
My in-laws are.
Okay. How's that?
That's good. Everyone's sort of in there. Yes, yes, it's all good.
Okay. Because, I can understand, and I'm not talking about you specifically, Debra, but living with a family like you have, and I'm going to get to the film in a moment, I promise. Mm-hmm. But, because it does have to do with your main character and where she's at and what she's going through, right?
Right. It does.
Where she's kind of in a malaise, right?
Yes, she's in a sort of an ebb moment in her marriage and with her child.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you set up this tension in their marriage, in the relationship, where it seems as though there's a lot of like secrets and isolation among the family members. So it's kind of like almost like a little bit of a horror film almost for there,
Yes, it is. It is a horror film.
It is.
In many ways. It's a domestic horror movie.
Right. And I want to say, as a sidebar, I love Stephen Little, and I've been following him for years, and I met him once, and I'm
he's great.
He's nuts. And I'm trying to get him. I would love to get him. I've been wanting to get him on the podcast. But have you ever, by the way, did you ever see Cataclysm?
No, but I know he's in that, right?
Okay. Yeah, so he's hysterical. That was my introduction to him. And then, of course, Eastbound and Down and blah, blah, blah. But I guess what I'm getting to is you're isolated from your own family, from Brooklyn, from your parents, from your sister, for most of the time. You're saying you're also isolated from friends because of you're so busy with 3 children. It's a lot. For all I know, your husband's 100% as well in the same situation. I don't know, but how much of the film is your story? How much of it is you, and how much of it is fiction?
Well, it's 100% fiction, but the part that's me is the fear factor.
Okay,
because I think when I moved from New York to Los Angeles. I had like a phobia, kind of a phobia of suburbia.
Right.
And I feel like LA is one big suburb. And there were other reasons that, other inspirations for this movie, but that was one of them, was this feeling of isolation. And also, when I first had my first child, I joined a parenting group. And I watched over the years, as our kids got older and we stayed together as a group, sort of an unofficial group therapy. I watched all these marriages and families dissolve, in really horrific ways.
Is that right?
And that was, a large percentage, And then I thought of that then, and I heard somebody say, it's good to write your worst fear. Try writing your worst fear sort of as an exercise. And that's where this kind of began.
Wow.
Okay. So writing from a place of your fears to kind of purge them in a way.
So how did that work out? I mean, I see the film and I enjoyed it. And that seems to be the case, as I said. It feels like a kind of a horror film when you are in a situation where you're in deep with how much more deep can you go than being in your family, and yet you're not able to. It's like things feel nightmarish and where you're disassociated and off kilter, and then you realize, your film. I don't want to give anything away too much, but obviously, a lot of that was an internal thing that your character, Cathy, was going through, right? Wendi McLendon is your actor.
Well, I feel like my goal was to sort of write a character of a mother character that we haven't seen before. Because I didn't feel like I was seeing myself represented in most of the moms I had seen in things, or not at so much of this character, but just sometimes the feeling of being in that situation of being a mom and the anxiety that comes with it. It's sort of like I was trying to feel like, what is the feeling I want to communicate to an audience, is sort of this experience that can, it comes and goes, where with your husband or with your kids, you are sometimes estranged, even though you're all living in the same house. It just happens because with kids, they grow and change so quickly, you kind of can't catch up sometimes. And with your husband, it's easy to come in and out, where sometimes you're more connected than other times when you're in a long-term relationship. So it's really about the experience of being in a long-term relationship and a moment in time when you're feeling completely disconnected from the people that are supposed to be closest to you.
Right.
And then the ramifications sometimes, what could happen in that situation when your paranoia or your fear takes over.
Right. And that's a good way of putting it, by the way, paranoid fantasy. This is like a
Yeah. It's like a paranoid fantasy the worst case scenario,
Yes. It's like, when you wake up from a nightmare, it can be very disorienting. And this film kind of makes you feel that way.
Right. I also was trying to say something about the stoicism of motherhood and how, I take it to kind of an extreme with this character where she's just put through the ringer and she just takes it. She's kind of battered. And, but that's how I see mothers, they really do, suck it up. And
where are the dads in all this, though? I mean, do you feel like we have not made a lot of progress as far as...
No, I feel like this could easily be a man's experience too. I'm a woman and I am writing
Fair
it
enough.
as a woman, and I don't feel like, my last film I actually was a man, a dad who was a stay-at-home dad. So I think it goes both ways. I just think it's more common for a woman to be that self-effacing and stoic and in that situation. Not that it doesn't happen to men as well. And the man, the guy in her husband is quite a sympathetic character in the movie too.
Yes, yeah, and absolutely. But again, the way you shape especially the opening sequences, you're not quite sure where people, the characters are coming from.
Right. It's not, you don't know what's what.
Right.
And there's also a component of addiction that's really relevant in the story as well. It's about addiction and how it never really leaves. It's always something that's there.
Is Woodstock your premiere?
No, it actually premiered at Sundance.
Okay. Very good. I should know that.
Well, you do now. Sundance was kind of a while ago too.
Well, it's like 8 or 9 months ago. That's pretty fantastic.
You can have a baby in that time.
You can.
Right. Well, you could.
Maybe your baby days are over though. But
yeah, they're
okay.
over.
But that's fantastic. So your premiere is at Sundance. Now that is like grabbing the ring, because what a major advantage to have, or at least a great start in the process of getting your film out into the world and getting a nice distribution deal, etc. So do you feel like you could have almost stopped after Sundance, or did you really want to have more extensive festival experience?
Well, it's nice to go to festivals and have the film scene. Even if it gets distribution, I don't know how big a theatrical it will be. So at film festivals, people go to the theater.
That's right.
And most people now watch movies on their TV or their phones.
That's true.
So I'd much prefer people going to see it in the theater. And given the state of independent film nowadays, I just don't know. I think there's going to be a small theatrical release, but I don't know how many people are going to run out to the theater to go see it.
Right.
I hope they do. I think they should.
Yes, I hope so too. And I think here at Filmwax we'll do our bit to help you along as best in our little way
Great.
as much as we can. But I understand for consideration, you need to have at least some sort of theatrical, at least, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. But you have a really great cast and a lot of workaday, shall I say, character actors that are very recognizable. I mentioned Steve Little. I mentioned Wendi McLendon-Covey, who people would absolutely know from many TV and film
Right.
roles.
She's on that show, The Goldbergs, and she was in Bridesmaids. She's the mom, but this is a totally different turn for her where she's doing a really dramatic role.
That's right.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, this is also a comedy. It's a horror
It
comedy.
is a horror comedy, and she has to deal with the horror sort of sides of the film. You know, she doesn't get as much. I mean, she has moments. Don't get me wrong, but she kind of has to contend with the horror side of the story. It's very true. She's sort of the dramatic center of the film. She's definitely she's almost in every moment of the film.
She is in every moment. Yeah, there's not a scene without her.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
she had
a
just
lot
come
for an
off
actor.
of 2 other projects. So
Films, you mean, or?
yeah, 2 big films, and then she came and did this, and she was amazing.
Yeah.
She's really amazing in it.
That's terrific that she is, she has TV success and as doing comedy, but now she's sort of finding another dimension to her career at this point in her life, which is terrific. And
She's really different in this.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. And then also you have Catherine Curtin, who people know from Orange is the New Black. I think she is technically in 90% of independent films that are out there right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's also on Stranger Things.
And she's in Stranger Things, 3rd season, or?
Yeah, I think it's the 3rd. Whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she plays someone's mom.
No doubt.
On Stranger Things.
Yeah. She and Ann Dowd seem to be your go-to character actors right now, female character.
Yeah, she's incredible. She is incredible.
I know. I ran into her not long ago at the Brooklyn Film Festival.
Oh.
And she did this podcast at the Woodstock Film Festival like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh.
With another film.
She's going to be there this year.
I know.
She's going to be there.
We're going to get her back on.
Yes.
She's in 2 films there. So she's in your film and one other, but that's not what we're talking about. And then you also have the lovely Christine Wood in this film, who I first saw and who I think ran away with Hello Ladies.
Oh, I love her. Yeah, she's incredible.
She is
Christine Woods.
she really is incredible. I mean, I enjoy Hello Ladies for all the comedy and the guys that are in it. They're very funny, but she took that show and elevated it just by her performance and her vulnerability. And I mean, she is such a nuanced actress. She's like the Ricky Gervais of that show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And she's just phenomenal in this film.
I agree.
I mean, her performance in this is outstanding.
Yeah. Again, we mentioned keeping viewers of this film off kilter a little bit, and she really is good at doing that as well.
Yeah.
And so it's a great cast. And I mean, we'll mention also the young Max Burkholder, since we're talking about everybody else, and Kate Alberts plays your daughter.
Right.
And
both kids are just, incredible too.
So who you worked obviously with a casting agent, obviously, to put this?
No, I cast the film myself.
You did?
Yeah.
How did you go about?
Because I'm old friends with Cathy Curtin.
Okay.
I've known her for a long time. And she was in another film I made. Christine Woods, same. Mm-hmm. She was in another film.
Okay.
Kate Alberts I found through an open call that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And Max Burkholder was in a pilot that my husband directed. So I found him through him. And Wendi I got through a producer.
Mm-hmm. And she came on board based on the screenplay?
Based on the script, yes.
Yeah, the script.
She was originally supposed to play the Cathy Curtin role.
Oh.
And I had somebody else to play the main role,
mm-hmm.
and things changed as they do, and
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, no, she should be the lead. I really wanted her to play that.
Mm-hmm.
And So she was thrilled to do that.
It's a great opportunity. And you yourself are an actor.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I'm not really acting now, but yes.
Was that, I mean, did you just sort of decide you wanted to be a filmmaker and focus enough so where acting would only intrude on that? Or is that something you're still considering going back to?
I don't consider going back to it. It sort of was an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I was an actress from the time I was pretty young. I was really interested in acting. I loved going to acting classes. I loved doing plays. And then when I graduated, I started getting work, through open calls in the newspaper. And I ended up becoming an actress, but I always had a lot of other interests. It wasn't just acting. I just happened to start getting work at a young age.
I see.
And then I wasn't really happy as a professional actress. I didn't really find it satisfying, and I found it frustrating being sort of in the picture. I wanted to be the one making the picture. Mm-hmm. So I started taking classes at the New School. I took a film class, and I had been a student, a directing student in college and a writing student as well. And I made a short film that got into South by Southwest. And then I got offered a scholarship to get my graduate degree in film, and that was sort of my out. I was 28. I was still acting professionally, but I just was miserable. And I knew I needed to make a change because this is not what I wanted to be for my life. And everyone thought I was insane. They were like, "What are you doing?" But I just went cold. I just stopped acting, and I went back to school full time.
Where was that?
At the New School.
Oh, you went back to graduate as well.
I went to graduate school, which was really a media studies program. But they had all this equipment that wasn't being used. And I ended up making a feature for my thesis that won an Independent Spirit Award.
Which is called?
The Grand Jury Prize at Sundance. It's called Daydream Believer.
Daydream Believer. I remember
made
that title.
I did it in such a way that I don't think I can even show it because I was so, it was for school, so I didn't get all the proper releases. But had I known.
Sure. It sounds like a really great journey, actually.
Yeah, it was a good journey. And I'm glad, I probably would act again, but I don't think there's any great need for anyone to see me.
You don't feel an imperative. I understand.
Yeah. I'm not like dying to do that.
No. You're making great films. The new one is called, that we've been talking about, is called Imaginary Order. It's going to be at the Woodstock Film Festival, where I'm going to come up and see it myself. Well, I'm going to come up and I'll see it again. I've seen the film. I enjoyed it. So I mean.
Oh, will you come see it again?
Yes. It's at the no way. Why would I want to do that? Of course, yes. And it's going to be at the Rhinebeck Upstate. For those upstate listeners to the show, anyway, it's going to be at Rhinebeck Upstate Films on Thursday, October 3rd at 7:00 p.m. and at the Woodstock Upstate Films Theater, obviously, on Friday, October 4th at 10:45 a.m. So bring a coffee and come see this film. It's really is thoroughly enjoyable with so many great familiar faces and a very, very enjoyable and cathartic kind of film to sit through. So I recommend it to everybody. I mean, Catherine, you mentioned is coming. Is anybody else coming up to the festival?
Yeah, the DP actually, Frank Tymazik is going to be there. Okay. And I think that's it. Mm-hmm. Well, but Cathy will be there.
Well, she's really
and she does great Q&A.
I know. She is so dynamic and charismatic.
she's really fun to watch.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun, and let's face it, she's kind of insane, but in all the best ways.
Oh, well, all the best people are.
Not exactly. How else do you end up in this business? Like, she's doing so many independent films, and obviously it's based on a love of storytelling, a love of character-based films, and, let's face it, that's where it's the advantage of independent films versus, I guess Hollywood or what have you. Obviously, she's gets a lot of gratification out of doing a film like yours.
Yeah.
As most actors.
You should definitely talk to her again.
I want to. I sent her a text. No kidding. We were in line together at the Brooklyn Film Festival back in the late spring or something like that, and we were just hung out and we were chatting and laughing, and we had a great time. So I was not surprised to see that she was in, a couple of films at the Woodstock Film Festival again. So I will definitely be bringing her back on, and we'll talk about Imaginary Order for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Well, thank you for making the time, and I'm sorry we didn't meet in person, but I will meet you up there. I'll run into you for sure.
Oh, good. I hope so. And thanks so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right. I'll meet you in person soon.
Okay. I'll hold you to it. All right. Enjoy your stay back in Brooklyn.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, Adam.
All right. Bye-bye, Debra.